Arnold stared at the envelope in his hands. His name was written in Maria's familiar handwriting across the front. He tore it open carefully. The letter was 3 pages long. His eyes immediately went to the first line. Arnold, I can't do this anymore. Tommy needs his father. But not like this. Tommy was their 5-year-old son, the light of both their lives. What did she mean by not like this? I've been trying to protect him from the chaos, but I'm failing. Every day he asks me why Daddy doesn't come home anymore. Every night he cries because he thinks you don't love him. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. Tommy thought he didn't love him. That was impossible. Everything he did was for his children, for their future. I know you think providing for us means training 18-hour days. I know you believe that building your legacy is more important than building memories with your son. But Arnold, he's 5 years old. He doesn't understand legacy. He only understands now. Arnold set the letter down on his desk and rubbed his temples. When was the last time he'd spent a full day with Tommy? When was the last time they'd played together without him checking his phone for training schedules? Remember when Tommy was 2 and he would wait by the door for you to come home? He would sit there with his little toy dumbbell, practicing the poses you taught him. Big muscles, daddy muscles. He would shout it over and over, waiting for you to walk through that door so he could show you. Tommy in his tiny tank top, clutching that plastic dumbbell, the pure joy on his face when the door would open, the way he would run into Arnold's arms, not caring if Daddy was tired or sore from training. He doesn't wait by the door anymore. Arnold, he's learned that Daddy doesn't come home at bedtime. He's learned that Daddy's promises about weekend trips get cancelled. He's learned that Daddy's hugs are quick because there's always another workout to do. Arnold's hands were shaking now. He thought about last weekend when he'd promised to take Tommy to the park. The call from his trainer that came in at 9 a.m., the disappointed look on his son's face when he'd said, "Maybe next weekend." Buddy, I'm not writing this to hurt you. I'm writing this because I love you and I love our son. But love isn't enough anymore. Tommy needs presents, not protein shakes. He needs your time, not your trophies. The gym felt cold suddenly. Through the window, he could see other buildings, other offices, other people working late into the night. How many of them were missing their children's bedtimes? 2. I've made a decision. Arnold, I'm taking Tommy and moving to my mother's house in Miami. I can't watch him break apart every day, wondering why his father doesn't want to be with him. Miami, that was a 12-hour drive away or a 3-hour flight. Either way, it meant Tommy would be far from him. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this to protect him. Maybe when you're not 10 minutes away, you'll realize what you're losing. Maybe when you have to make an effort to see him, you'll understand what really matters. Arnold looked at the framed photo on his desk. Tommy was 3 in the picture, sitting on his shoulders, both of them flexing at something off camera. When had he stopped flexing like that with pure joy? The letter continued, but Arnold needed a moment. He walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Tommy was probably already asleep. Did he ask about Daddy tonight? Did he wonder why Daddy didn't call? Arnold picked up the letter again, his heart racing as he read the second page. Do you remember the night Tommy was born? You held him for 3 hours straight. The nurses kept asking if you wanted to put him down, but you refused. You said you'd waited your whole life for that moment. He remembered the weight of Tommy in his arms, so small and perfect, the way his tiny fingers had wrapped around Arnold's thumb, the promise he'd whispered in his ear, "I'll always be here for you, little champion." You used to sing to him every night, that silly song about strong little boys. He would giggle and ask for the champion song every bedtime. When did you stop singing to him, Arnold? The champion song. He'd made it up one night when Tommy was crying and nothing else would calm him down. It was about a little boy who grew up to be the strongest man in the world, just like his daddy. Tommy had loved it so much that it became their ritual. Last week he asked me to sing the champion song. I tried, but I don't remember all the words. Only you knew them. He cried because it wasn't right, because I wasn't you. That's when I knew I had to write this letter. Arnold closed his eyes and the melody came back to him instantly. Little champion boy, growing strong each day. Daddy's here to cheer you on in every single way. He'd sung it hundreds of times. How had he forgotten? I found his drawings yesterday, page after page of muscle men and stick figures. In every picture, there's a big daddy strongman and a little boy strongman, but they're always lifting weights in different gyms. Do you know what that means? Even in his imagination, you're working out somewhere else. The drawings. Tommy had always loved to draw. His refrigerator at home was covered with his artwork, or at least it used to be. When was the last time he'd looked at one of Tommy's drawings? He asked me why you don't live with us anymore. I told him that mommies and daddies sometimes live in different houses, but still love each other very much. He asked if that means you don't love him anymore since you train somewhere else. 2. The logic of a 5-year-old, simple, heartbreaking, and impossible to argue with. In Tommy's mind, if daddy didn't train with him, it meant daddy didn't love him. How could he explain the complexity of adult relationships to a child who just wanted his father home? I tried to explain that you're working hard to become a champion for him, but he said he doesn't want you to be a champion, he just wants you to come home. He said he would rather have a daddy than a trophy. Out of the mouths of babes, Tommy had cut through all the justifications, all the noble goals, all the grand visions. A 5-year-old's wisdom was sometimes sharper than any adult's. Remember his 4th birthday? You promised to take him to the bodybuilding expo. You had it all planned out. The competition, the meet and greets, lunch at his favorite place. He talked about it for weeks. He told everyone at preschool about his special day with daddy. Arnold remembered the plan. He'd been excited about it. 2. Quality time with Tommy, sharing his love of strength and fitness. It would have been perfect. But then there was a last-minute competition opportunity. There's always a last-minute competition opportunity, isn't there? You sent flowers and a card. A 4-year-old doesn't understand flowers and cards. Arnold, he understands presents. The flowers had been beautiful, expensive. The card had been personalized. But none of that mattered to a 4-year-old who just wanted to see strongmen with his daddy. He kept the card in his backpack for months. He would take it out and trace the letters of your name with his finger. DADDY. He would spell out loud. He learned to read your name before he learned to read anything else. The image of Tommy tracing his name, practicing the letters, carrying that card everywhere. It was almost too much to bear. Such a small thing, but it had meant everything to his son. When he started kindergarten, they had a Bring Your Hero to School day. He wanted to bring you. He made a special invitation with dumbbells and muscles drawn on it. He practiced his introduction speech for weeks. This is my daddy and he's the strongest man in the world. Arnold felt tears forming in his eyes. He'd missed that. 2. Another broken promise. Another disappointed child. I had to go instead. I tried to explain that mommy was his hero, too, but he said, no, heroes are supposed to save the day, and mommies are just mommies. He wanted the daddy who lifts heavy things, not the mommy who makes sandwiches. The innocence of that statement. Tommy saw him as a hero, as someone who could do anything, but heroes were supposed to show up when they were needed most. The 3rd page of the letter was shorter, but each word felt like a weight on Arnold's chest. 3 nights ago, Tommy had a nightmare. He dreamed that his daddy was lifting weights so heavy that he couldn't put them down to come home. He woke up crying, asking me if you were stuck at the gym. Arnold set the letter down and walked to his couch. The nightmare was too close to reality. He had been trapped under the weight of his own ambitions, unable to put them down to be with his son. I held him for 2 hours that night. He kept asking me to call you to make sure you were okay. It was 3 a.m., but he didn't understand training schedules or competition prep. He just needed to hear your voice. 3 a.m. Arnold would have been awake anyway, doing cardio or lying in bed thinking about his next competition. He would have answered the phone. He would have talked to Tommy for as long as needed, but Maria hadn't called. I didn't call because I knew you'd be angry about interrupting your prep. I didn't call because I was tired of making excuses for why daddy couldn't talk right now. I didn't call because I was protecting you from your own son's needs. The truth hit him hard. She'd been protecting him from his own family, making excuses, managing expectations, handling the emotional labor of a father who was physically strong but emotionally absent. But I can't protect you anymore, Arnold, and I can't protect Tommy from the truth anymore. His father is choosing everything else over him, and he's old enough to feel that choice. Choosing everything else over him, was that what he was doing? In his mind, he was training for Tommy's future, for his security, for the legacy Tommy would inherit. But in Tommy's mind, Daddy was simply choosing not to be there. Yesterday, he asked me if he could get a new daddy. A daddy who would play catch with him and help him ride his bike. A daddy who would be home for dinner and read him bedtime stories. The words were like a knife twisting in his chest. Tommy wanted to replace him. His own son was ready to find a new father because the one he had was failing him so completely. I told him that you're the only daddy he'll ever have and that you love him very much, but he said if you loved him, you would want to be with him. I couldn't argue with that logic. 5-year-old logic again. Simple, pure, and devastating. Love means presence. Love means choosing to be there. Love means showing up. So I'm taking him away before he stops asking for you altogether. I'm taking him away before he learns that fathers are optional. I'm taking him away before he accepts that love comes with conditions and competition schedules. She was saving Tommy from learning the wrong lessons about love, about relationships, about what he should expect from the people who claim to care about him. I know you'll be angry. I know you'll think I'm being unfair. You'll probably blame me for not being more understanding, for not supporting your dreams and ambitions. He could feel that anger rising already, the unfairness of it all, the way she was painting him as a villain when he was working harder than anyone to provide for his family. But I'm not the enemy here, Arnold. Your own priorities are the enemy. Your inability to separate urgent from important is the enemy. Your fear of missing out on the next competition is the enemy. The next competition. There was always a next competition, always another training session, another opportunity that seemed more important than a bedtime story or a trip to the park. I'm leaving you my new address at the bottom of this letter, not because I want you to come and convince me to change my mind, but because Tommy will want to send you drawings. He'll want to call you and tell you about his new school. New school, new city, new life, a life that would unfold without him there to witness it, birthdays he would miss, milestones he would hear about secondhand. I hope that when you're sitting in your empty gym late at night, you'll remember what you chose to prioritize. I hope you'll remember that all the trophies in the world can't replace the love of a child you've lost. Lost? Had he already lost Tommy? Was it too late to fix this? And I hope that someday you'll understand that I'm not taking him away from you. I'm saving him from learning that love isn't reliable, that promises don't mean anything, and that the people who matter most will always find something more important to do. The letter ended there, except for an address in Miami and a single line, Tommy still loves you, don't let that change. Arnold sat in his office for what felt like hours. The letter spread across his desk. The building was quiet now, the hum of air conditioning and distant traffic the only sounds. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Maria's number. His finger hovered over the call button. What would he say? That she was wrong? That he did prioritize Tommy? The evidence was against him, written in his own choices, his own schedule, his own missed moments. Instead, he scrolled through his photos. There was Tommy at 3, flexing with a chocolate milk mustache. Tommy at 4, dressed as a superhero for Halloween. Tommy last month, asleep in the car after a day at the beach, one of the few full days they'd spent together recently. In every photo, Tommy was smiling. In every photo, he looked happy. But photos didn't tell the whole story. They didn't show the moments in between, the cancelled plans, the rushed goodbyes. Arnold opened his calendar app and scrolled back through the past month. Training session after training session, competition after competition. There were exactly 3 entries that mentioned Tommy. Tommy's soccer game, maybe. Dinner with Tommy, moved to next week. And weekend trip, cancelled. 3 entries in 30 days. And 2 of them were cancelled or postponed. When had his son become an afterthought in his own schedule? He thought about Tommy's soccer game, the one marked maybe in his calendar. He hadn't gone. There had been opposing practice that seemed urgent at the time. What had been so important that it couldn't wait 2 hours? He couldn't even remember now. The weekend trip had been cancelled for a guest posing seminar. A seminar that could have been rescheduled, but he'd chosen not to rock the boat. He'd chosen professional advancement over his son's disappointment. And the dinner that was moved to next week had never been rescheduled. It had disappeared from his calendar entirely, replaced by other priorities that seemed more pressing in the moment. Arnold walked to his window and looked out at the city. In apartments and houses across the skyline, fathers were probably tucking their children into bed right now, reading stories, singing songs, making memories that would last a lifetime. He thought about his own father, the complicated relationship they'd had, the times he'd felt abandoned, ignored, like he wasn't important enough to merit attention. He'd promised himself he would be different with his own children. But promises were easy to make and hard to keep when faced with the demands of building a champion's legacy. Every day brought new challenges, new opportunities, new competitions that seemed to require his immediate attention. He pulled out his phone and opened the voice recorder app. Maybe he could record the champion song, send it to Tommy, so he could hear it whenever he wanted. But as he started to speak, his voice cracked. Little champion boy, growing strong each day. The words came out broken, emotional. This wasn't how the song was supposed to sound. It was supposed to be joyful, playful, full of love and wonder. He stopped the recording and deleted it. Tommy deserved better than a father who could only offer broken songs and empty promises. The intercom on his desk buzzed. His trainer's voice came through. "Arnold, the photo shoot team is ready for the final session." The photo shoot. Another commitment. Another urgent matter that required his immediate attention. He looked at the letter on his desk, then at the intercom. "Tell them I'll reschedule," he said. "Sir, this shoot has been planned for weeks. The photographer flew in from New York. The magazine deadline." "I said reschedule it." His voice was firm, final. For the first time in months, maybe years, he was choosing his family over work. It was too late to save tonight, too late to undo the damage of the past few years, but it wasn't too late to start making different choices. He picked up his phone and dialed Maria's number. It went straight to voicemail. Of course it did. She was probably putting Tommy to bed, doing what he should have been doing every night. "Maria, it's me. I read your letter. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to Tommy. I know I've messed up, but I want to fix this. I want to be the father he deserves." He hung up and immediately called back. Voicemail again. "I'm going to change. I know you've heard that before, but this time is different. This time I understand what I'm losing. Please don't take him away before I have a chance to prove that I can be better." The desperation in his own voice surprised him. When had he last sounded that vulnerable, that human? The next morning, Arnold canceled every training session on his calendar and booked a flight to Miami. He didn't call ahead, didn't make plans, didn't even pack a gym bag. He just grabbed his passport and headed to the airport. During the 3-hour flight, he stared out the window and thought about all the conversations he'd never had with Tommy, the questions his son had asked that he'd been too busy to answer properly, the stories Tommy had tried to tell him while he was distracted by his phone. He remembered one evening when Tommy had been particularly excited about something that happened at school. He'd been tugging on Arnold's sleeve, trying to get his attention while Arnold was reviewing competition footage. "Not now, buddy," he'd said. "Daddy's working." But Tommy had persisted the way 5-year-olds do when they have something important to share. Finally, Arnold had looked up with frustration. "What is it, Tommy? Make it quick." The excitement had drained from Tommy's face. "Nothing, Daddy. It's not important." But it had been important. Everything was important to a 5-year-old. Their discoveries, their questions, their need to share their world with the person they loved most. The plane landed in Miami at 2 p.m. Arnold took a taxi to the address from the letter, his heart pounding as they drove through unfamiliar streets. What if Maria refused to let him see Tommy? What if Tommy didn't want to see him? The house was smaller than he'd expected. A modest 2-story home with a yellow door and a small front yard. There was a children's bike on the porch, Tommy's bike, with the Muscle Man stickers they'd put on together last summer. Arnold stood at the front door for a full minute before finally ringing the bell. He could hear movement inside, voices, the sound of small feet running. Then the door opened and there was Tommy. "Daddy!" Tommy's face lit up with surprise and joy. He launched himself into Arnold's arms without hesitation, without reservation. Pure, unconditional love. "Hey, little champion," Arnold whispered, holding his son tight. "I missed you. I missed you too. Daddy, are you here to stay?" The question broke his heart. Such a simple request, but loaded with hope and fear. "I'm here to see you, buddy. I'm here to talk to you and Mommy." Maria appeared in the doorway, her expression guarded. "You came. I had to. I read your letter. And you were right about everything." Tommy was still clinging to him, chattering about his new school, his new room, the playground down the street. Normal 5-year-old chatter, but Arnold hung on every word like it was the most important information in the world. "Can Daddy see my room?" Tommy asked Maria. She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but just for a little while." Tommy's room was small but cozy, filled with books and toys and drawings taped to the walls. In the corner was a bed with superhero sheets, the same ones from home. "I brought my superhero sheets," Tommy explained proudly. "And look, Daddy." He ran to his desk and picked up a stack of papers. "I made you drawings." The drawings were all strongmen and superhero scenes, just like Maria had described. But in these newer ones, the daddy strongman and the little boy strongman were working out together, side by side. "This one is us lifting weights together," Tommy explained, holding up a colorful drawing. And this one is us doing push-ups. And this one is us having a protein shake after our workout. Each drawing was a window into Tommy's imagination, a world where he and his daddy were training partners, where they were together. It was the world Tommy wanted to live in, the world Arnold had been too busy to create. These are amazing. Tommy, you're getting so good at drawing. Mommy says I get my art skills from her and my strong muscles from you. Is that true, Daddy? I think you get the best of both of us, buddy. Tommy beamed at the compliment. Then his expression grew more serious. Daddy, why don't you live with us anymore? The question he'd been dreading. How do you explain divorce to a 5-year-old? How do you explain that sometimes people who love each other can't live together? Well, Tommy, sometimes mommies and daddies decide they're happier living in different houses, but that doesn't mean we don't love you. We both love you very, very much. But if you loved me, wouldn't you want to be with me? There it was again, 5-year-old logic, cutting right to the heart of the matter. Tommy had internalized the message that love equals presence, and by that measure, Arnold had been failing. I do want to be with you, Tommy. I want to be with you more than anything. I've just been confused about what's important. What's important? You are, buddy. You're the most important thing in the whole world. Tommy studied his father's face, searching for sincerity. More important than competitions? Much more important than competitions. More important than training? Much more important than training. Tommy seemed satisfied with this answer. He climbed onto Arnold's lap and leaned against his chest. Will you sing me the champion song? Of course, little man. As Arnold began to sing the familiar melody, Tommy's eyes closed and he smiled. It was the first time in months that Arnold had seen his son look completely peaceful.